With the Elimination Chamber just a week or so away and Fastlane in its embryonic stages, the road to WrestleMania has taken a reasonable, if unspectacular, start. Can both Raw and SmackDown improve and deliver some entertaining shows? Well, you can find out on this week's edition of Wrestling Rant. Things kicked off on Raw this week with a Bray Wyatt-Roman Reigns dual promo, which was solid from both guys, as it got me interested, even though the outcome is predictable for their match later on in the evening. Now, I would have liked Reigns to have called out Wyatt's failures rather than use Wyatt's own words to bolster his ego, but it was still an enjoyable thing. Now, at this point, I was thinking, okay, they're promoting the match for later on in the evening, the promo is doing that job, this is great. Then they decide to put the match on straight next. And the commentators don't even bat an eye that they've just promoted a match, seen a promo, and then had it immediately come on. They don't even do that. They feign ignorance, and it's utterly stupefying. Regardless, however, the match, I'm going to say this right now, was a by-the-numbers match that really didn't do much to entertain me. Now, I love the fact that the commentators mentioned the history between Reigns and Wyatt over the years and tried to hype this up as big as humanly possible, but given Wyatt's fall from grace, which they also bloody noted since losing the WWE Championship last year, it should have made this match painfully obvious, and it bloody did, as any form of excitement was completely taken away from me because it was obvious that Roman Reigns was going to win from the get-go, and no matter what they did in trying to make Wyatt look like a threat, it had no impact on me. Now, no wonder the fact the fans realised, okay, the match is going long, about 15 minutes, we might as well think that this is an awesome idea. The fact is, just because you say this match is awesome does not necessarily make it so. I'm not a huge fan of that chant, you should know by now, and this match was just boring, because you knew where it was going, you knew what was happening, and the commentators, to point this point out to me, basically saw the drive-by coming from a mile away, yet decided to not even realise that. They're going, oh my god, what's we going to do here? It's like, it's obviously going to do the drive-by. Just hype it up that he's going to do some drop kicks to the face. Thank god it was countered. That was one of the few moments I legitimately was intrigued by this match. It was stilted and sloppy in movement and execution. It didn't bring excitement out of me, despite making the crowd go popping, which is weird considering it was a predictable result that Roman Reigns was going to win anyway. And for me, considering that Bray didn't make a Sister Abigail definitive, and he got lost to a spear, good lord almighty, it shows that Roman Reigns is superpowered to hell, and we know that it's going to happen. Elimination Chamber, he's most likely going to win it. But this match, I wasn't a fan of it. And honestly, if you wanted to give me a match to start off the evening, at least make it exciting, right? So this match, for me, felt pointless, because it was inevitable, it was stupefyingly predictable, and annoying as hell. It gets a strike. And you may find that to be cruel, but hey, like I said, the booking of this show, and many others in this line here this week, was a little strange. This is a typifying point of that. And honestly, I couldn't have had a worse start to the evening, honestly, personally, on my opinion. Jordan and Rollins had a backstage segment following that, and it was a simple promo to build up to their title match, while also highlighting what would happen if they ended up losing. I have no problems with this. It may have been nothing special, but it wasn't terrible either, so I can let it slide. We then had an unconventional match between Finn Balor and Carl Anderson, of all people, against the Revival. It was meant to be one of the Revival versus Anderson and or Balor. I can never remember which one it was, because it was a couple of days ago that I watched this show. The fact is, it turned into a tag match that was made on the fly, and it was obvious again where this was going to go. Now, it was a nice twist to see Anderson put in a team without Gallows in it, because you don't see that. It was a nice novelty, but just like the match that happened just before this, it went on way too long, it went at an elongated pace that was just really mundane, and it didn't set the soul on fire. I use that term a lot because it's what happens. The result was predictable because the Revival, who came out to nothing, by the way, which is obvious considering the theme song sucks, on top of that, they really didn't get much of a chance to showcase themselves. For me personally. And it's annoying. I hope they get something better in the future, because this is not what I want to see. This felt like filler, and honestly, I didn't want the show to begin like this. We had a match There was way too much to begin the show on, and then we have this. I just feel that this didn't really help the show's momentum at all, and it gets the second strike of the evening. It didn't benefit the Revival, it didn't really benefit Balor Club either, and it's just a match that existed because the feud demanded a 50-50 booking split take, and that's all it got. And it did not entertain me in the slightest. Now, I know the Balor Club are great, I know the Revival are great. You put those two in a slow, methodical contest, even less than an hour in, you haven't even reached the end of the first hour, after already having another match of similar quality. It's not good for the show, it isn't good for me viewing, and it probably isn't that good for others. If you like seeing wrestling on your weekly narrative-telling story product, then by all means buy into it, but for me, unless the matches happen with a good enough reason and they're exciting and have the passion of the storyline included, they are not going to get past me with a lot to say. Now, we next had a Bayley and Sasha Banks backstage promo, highlighting that yes, Sasha is still cold-footed after losing that match to Asuka last week, and I love the fact, as it always is pointed out, that they watch TVs at weird angles, and who the hell watches an iPad side-on? It's weird. And honestly, the promo wasn't really going anywhere. It was just mumbling through really asinine banter between two friends that really was so close, ladies and gentlemen, for me to give it the third strike. But then Bayley dropped some savage fire by highlighting that yes, I could beaten you in the past, so I have no problem beating Asuka later on tonight. Oh, Mrs. Hugs a lot. That is the kind of fire that Becky Lynch would be proud of, and I am very happy to see that you, of all people, saved a segment from bombing. Thank God, because like I said, I was willing to give this show the third strike within the first hour. Good Lord, well done, and I'm happy to know that you pulled that out of the bag. Then we had Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali versus Drew Gulag and Tony Nese in a pretty solid match. It was intriguing enough. We also had the debut of Drake Maverick, aka Rockstar Spud, on the announce desk, and his passion for the brand and the booking of the match in general got the crowd on their feet to some extent. It was an interesting match to see, but it's nothing different than what we've had before. And logically, it was interesting enough for me to not give it a strike. It was entertaining in reaction, you had the reasoning behind it to build up the tournament, and an interesting series of matches on 205 Live, which is what you needed, and it was all relatively fine. Nothing inoffensive, nothing dangerous, and honestly nothing stupid to go against my ratings. On top of that, Spud, Drake, whichever one you want to be called, I know you are awesome because I remember seeing you at Brit Rest Fest many a year ago, and my God, you had the crowd on their feet, including me, so I understand logically that you are worth my time, but please do not use that much spray tan in the future. You look like you could pose as Donald Trump and get away with it. It's just a little thing I want to pick out on, and that's all I can say. We then had an Kurt Angle in-ring promo highlighting the Women's Elimination Chamber matchup and the participants within it. And yes, it came out just about as good as you'd expect from a guy who legitimately fumbled his lines so many times that you could see the sweat dripping off his own face. And yes, I am annoyed that Asuka is facing Nia Jax. Because what does this mean? Apparently that Asuka has chosen the Raw champion. Really? We didn't see any confirmation of that, and later on, in the Bayley-Asuka match, Michael Cole highlighted that Asuka hasn't made a choice yet. That it'll be, in any case, if Nia Jax wins against Asuka, then it'll be in either of the championship matches that Asuka is a part of. So, where is that going? I'd like to see that addressed, please. Now, this segment would have bombed if Kurt Angle had kept droning on. But Alexa Bliss came through with the biggest mic drop of the year thus far, highlighting that yes, Raw's champion, the men's champion, gets to sit on his ass and not defend his championship in the chamber despite having not defended it a lot of bare time in the last few months, while Alexa Bliss has to go in there and defend hers, and say blight out it is sexism. That is one thing that is going to make me spit out my water while I'm analysing this show. And boy, it did. And Alexa, whew, You saved another segment. The women saved their own segments this week. Lovely stuff. And on top of that, I understand the annoyance of seeing the members of Absolution in the chamber where Nia Jax and Asuka are not, but hey, this is what happens. And honestly, I am hoping that Stephanie McMahon uses this against Kurt Angle if a feud between them is actually happening. Because, honestly, if they're going to build up to it, I'd love to see this used. If not, it's a wasted opportunity. The chamber match itself, it's kind of predictable, because either Bliss is going to win, or Mickie James, or Bayley, or Sasha are just going to surprise us. But Lord knows what's going to happen now. We've only got a week or so to go until this event comes through. So, what do you think? Anything's possible, right? But well done to Alexa Bliss for making this one of the more memorable segments of the year, even though it ended as awkwardly as it started, which means I am slightly indifferent about it. We follow that up with another continuation of these damn phone promos, but once again, Raw knows what to do with these by utilising people who know how to speak on the mic in John Cena to make them work. Again, it psychs me up for the main event match to find out who's the last person in the Elimination Chamber match. That's great! John Cena doing exactly what he is, a great marketing tool to ensure that we all get psyched. You may boo him, you may say he sucks in tune with his theme song, but you cannot deny you feel psyched whenever he gets on the mic and ranks off a massive vocal bomb. It may not be much, but my god, the explosion was just enough to get my excitement back in on this night. We then had Asuka versus Bayley. Now, considering these two's history, I knew the match was going to be good, and it was just like Sasha's last week, except there were no botches. It was fluid, crisp, intense, and very, very, very fun to watch. And of course, Asuka won, but my god, Bayley actually showed that unlike the storylines that she had with Alexa Bliss last year, she can go the distance and be aggressive to showcase that. And it was a lovely match. For a match on Raw that these guys could have easily had on pay-per-view, I am very happy with what we got here. And the handshake afterwards is perfect because, unlike Sasha Banks, who got in her face last week, and others who have attacked her from behind, Bayley was treated with respect, and it showcases that yes, sportsmanship can take you a hell of a long way. And that is great for me because if people think that Bayley has a chance of doing anything, it's this kind of performance that reminds us why she was so over in the first place. That fortitude is why we love her so much. And of course, for me, the cute aesthetic always works because, dear God, everything on her she's so dorbs. And obviously, if you can combine the ferociousness with the cuteness, you have a fantastic winning formula for a person like me. In a wrestling sense, at least. We then moved on to the Bar, doing one of those phone promos. Now, I still hate these things, as you would expect, but at least it allows the wrestlers to speak more freely and under less pressure than they would do under the normal circumstances backstage, meaning guys like Cesaro and Sheamus, who have been flustered by the live setting and the scriptingness in the past, can actually deal something good. The Bar did a good promo. They sounded like cocky heels who are out to prove a point, which is what they should be doing, and that is great. So I can't find a problem with that. So again, like I've said, if you can work out the problems and don't post them to YouTube hours prior to the show, you'll be fine. I just, again, wish they didn't have to do this, especially when it comes to noting the Bar in big bloody red letters before the promo even begins. That's my opinion, however, and you know where to stick it if you don't like that. We then had a match that I was not expecting much going in, but came out feeling quite spectacular about it. The Miz versus Apollo Crews to go into the Elimination Chamber contest. Now, the promo beforehand by The Miz, as of course, is going to be good. You'd expect it at this point. But then we had basically the revival of Crews under Titus Worldwide. He has been looking quite fantastic. And overall, I thought to myself, if this was an IC title match and Miz barely came out of it, with much to shout about other than getting the pinfall in the end, logically you'd say, holy crap, Apollo Crews can match the IC champion. There were times where I legitimately thought that Crews had him beat. And that's good. They're building Crews up to be somewhat of a danger. Because yeah, he may be all smiles, he may be athletic as all hell, but my god is he hard hitting when he needs to be, and it proved that he can go the distance too. And we need that. We need Apollo Crews to showcase himself, and this was the match that did it. I wasn't expecting this to go anywhere, but yeah, we had a good match here, folks. And like I've said, if Apollo Crews wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or the IC title in the future, I would not be surprised now, because we've seen that kind of quality from him in the ring. It builds his character well, the Miz still looks strong regardless, and overall, I can't say anything bad. Raw has built its momentum and won me over this night. It was on 2 strikes, ladies and gentlemen, and you're waiting for it to falter, as am I. And at the moment, it's doing well, and we have a Jason Jordan, Seth Rollins backstage promo once again, but this time it builds on Jordan's real-life medical issues and highlights he is not able to compete, even though he was up for it. He tweaked his neck in the back and then had to be pulled out of it. Oh, I love it. But of course, Seth just finds Roman Reigns out of nowhere, and of course Roman Reigns is superhuman. He can tackle 2 matches in one night. Looks like he is the big dog after all. Because seriously, a dog does not run out of energy usually. I'm gonna say that again. He does not run out of energy quite quickly, meaning he is definitely a dog. The hyperactivity keeps on going, and logically, he's gonna go out there looking as fresh as a daisy, even though Bray Wyatt beat him up something fierce. Good lord, continuity save me. I am looking forward to this for one simple reason, because if you know how Jason Jordan does things and how this is going to go, somehow Seth is going to lose. So who is going to explode first? Well, with Seth knowing that Jason is out due to injuries now, we're hoping it'll be due to later on when Jason comes back, realizing that Seth hasn't won the championships back and he freaks out, showing that he is indeed stronger despite the neck saying otherwise. Well, speaking of the match itself, the crowd were more hyped than usual for the Balor versus Rollins and Reigns, which followed straight after the commercial break. And of course, it was due to the fact that they were in Seth Rollins' home state of Iowa, which is fine by me. Now, this was the typical high aggression action spiel that we've gotten from both teams of any description in the past few months. Which means the match was intense, but also the fact with Roman Reigns in there, you thought to yourself, they actually could win it. The 2013 Tag Team of the Bloody Year could actually win the titles here. I thought, okay, that would be a nice swerve, but it would be a little ridiculous. Then again, Jason Jordan made his effect known and got them DQ'd by punching Sheamus in the face. I'm sorry, this feud is brilliant, because Jordan is so oblivious to the crap he's causing and the snowball of fire that is going to come his way when Rollins gets his hands on him, that it's just brilliant. And this is the thing, we go on into the next segment after this one thing I'll get to in a moment, which was the Jason Jordan segment again. And this is mostly the fact that Rollins tore into him and basically told him and called him a son of a bitch and just was so angry because, again, while you may think that Seth Rollins shouldn't give a damn, he is making the best of a bad situation that he was forced into, and inevitably, in the best form of continuity you can get, was logically angry that his loyalty to another person is being continuously undermined. This is what him and the Shield and his entire ethos is bloody built on. And on top of that, Kurt Angle got bloody angry and yelled at him to go home and stay home because he's causing too many problems and taking the patronage of his dad too much. Jason Jordan's character may not be loved by so many people, but for me, it's great. You need to look past Jason Jordan, the person, and what he's giving to this, and look at the storyline in the broader picture, because this is the kind of thing I like. This is the kind of thing that works, people. And you can't go wrong with that. But what came before this is going to be getting the third strike of the evening, Braun Strowman's phone promo. Now, it's not necessarily the phone promo itself, but it was a cookie-cutter Strowman promo that basically used the exact same statements in the last man standing situation that he used last week. Which means, by definitive notion, that we basically got the exact same thing that he highlighted to Corey Graves on stage in last week's show. And, well, as my excitement goes and a cough comes through, yeah, this thing really did not do anything for me. It proves these phone segments are really there to fill in narrative gaps which aren't there, like I said to Sasha Banks last week. And inevitably, if you're going to do this, I would advise not giving Strowman this opportunity, because he uses social media, yeah, but whenever he's on social media, he's a goofy twat. So logically, you want to separate the two. And logically, in that front, I wouldn't give Strowman anywhere near these kind of promos, and it's really a pointless and very baffling decision. And as a result, this show managed to get into the third hour after having one of the worst first hours for me in recent times. So Raw, you did well. But my god, you stumbled on something that was so easily avoidable. I'm not that happy about it. We then got, as I've highlighted, we had that promo that I've mentioned. Then we had Nia Jax versus a jobber. It was a simple squash match. And the Empress of Yesterday line was so corny, I would have given it a strike based on that alone. It was Empress of the Past would have been more fitting, and I'm not even writing your scripts. Sonya Deville versus Mickie James was nothing special either, outside of Bliss attempting to make amends with James to find an ally in that chamber match, which was very interesting indeed. And then we got to the main event, with Elias pinning John Cena and becoming the last guy in the chamber. What? John Cena got pinned by an up-and-comer? Somebody pinch me! Then again, it's becoming common, and the fact is, Strowman still looked good despite being double-teamed for most of it, which is all well and good. He remains strong, Elias got the massive rub, and Cena, well, Lord knows what's happening to him, because he is the wild card. He could start this chamber from the get-go and go all the way to the end. However, Raw this time could not go all the way to the end, and as a result, SmackDown may smell blood in the water and realise we can do better. And before we tackle this show outright, I have to mention the Ask New Day segments, where Big E continuously threw barbs at Corey Graves, which, given the rivalry and the hatred that Corey has on commentary for them, was just stunning, I'm gonna say. And they were overall really fun parts of the evening. There were too many of them split up through the evening to really have me talk about them on individual lengths. They were really short for the most part, and I won't really complain because the New Day are entertaining as hell still. After what, 3 years on the roster? My god! Go on, New Day, you can keep going for as long as you want for all I care. This is good stuff. Anyway, the main show kicked off with a Shane McMahon, Daniel Bryan promo, which of course also featured AJ Styles, because what else has started SmackDown in the last few weeks? Now, this one, however unlike last week's quite stale offering, was one that I found very interesting and very fun, because I was laughing at the barbs they were throwing at each other, while also getting chills at the blunt realism that was being put forward by it. This is a segment that I enjoyed immensely, and you cannot deny that. Because come Fastlane, we're going to see this go to boiling point, and all will be well. As for AJ Styles, he added his words to the issue, but this time out and out threatened Bryan and Shane to stay out of his business, otherwise there will be problems. This is adding an extra narrative weave into the tapestry of SmackDown Live continuity and feud building. I am looking forward to seeing where this goes, because come Fastlane, like I said, we will know what's happening, and it's going to be quite a lot of fun. We then had another AJ Shinsuke Nakamura backstage segment. Now, again, you could call this repetitive, you could call this one-dimensional, but I love the way, as I mentioned last week, that Shinsuke is getting into AJ's head way before it needs to happen, because it makes me think, what the blue hell is going to happen when the feud does start? What is going to happen? Because seriously, Shinsuke's already in his head, and they can utilize it to many a front, and it's going to be great. Good lord, it was short and sweet, but that's what you need for Shinsuke. He's charisma personified, you don't need to do anything more. Then we had Charlotte Flair versus Liv Morgan. Now, I thought this matchup was not going to be anything really to shout about. But Charlotte's aggression and desire for revenge made this match a very enticing one, especially as Morgan gave it a good shot. And actually, you know what? Charlotte can make anyone look good in that ring. Good lord, because unlike Becky and, honestly, Naomi and a few others, it actually felt pretty damn interesting. because anything that Charlotte touches is going to be much more because she's that bloody good. And the match was fun, it was enjoyable, and for a women's match, I've rated them strikes almost every single period in the last few weeks since I restarted this show. Anything can make me more happier than this, and nothing ever will. This is good. The women on SmackDown have done something I liked. Good. Keep it up, and we may be more in good positive equity come Fastlane and WrestleMania. We then had a Kevin Owens backstage promo. Solid, and it built tension for the night. I don't have to explain anything more, it did its job, and you know Kevin Owens is good on the mic when he's intense, intrigued, and focused. Which is exactly what this was, and you can't deny that. Then we had ourselves the first strike of the evening, and of course it's going to be Bludgeon Brothers versus Jobbers. Yeah, I'm sorry, I did say it last week, we don't need to see more of this. They're already domineering and threatening, and that's great, but yeah. I mean, it ended with the Usos coming out and giving them a stare down, and Harper telling Rowan, do not even think about it yet. They want to continue the psyching out and mind games with a dominance, but yeah. I don't want to see the Bludgeon Brothers beat up Jobbers now. You either can make SmackDown's tag division more populated to give them more to feed on, or you can just not do the same thing every week. Do some promos, do some crazy stuff when they interfere in a match involving the Usos. Give me something new for the Bludgeon Brothers, and I'll be happy. But speaking of new, you can flip that on its head and go to the same old, because the Usos doing another smack-talking promo. You'd think once again, oh, it's the same as last week, how bloody repetitive. But this is the Usos we're talking about. Their mic work is fantastic, and it always makes me smile because it sounds like they put 100% behind it, and it is stunning. And unlike last week, we didn't get any stupid jail cell door overlays and text. Hallelujah! And that is all I needed, because that segment was great on its own and it proved its format justly. Kevin Dunn, you actually listened to me and many other fans out there. Maybe I was a little harsh last week. Who bloody knows if you continue to listen to us and do right by our viewing preferences. All will be fun here in the house of fun that is WWE television viewing. I will not be harsh if you keep this going. Now, we go on to something entirely different. The first ever top 10 list. Now, wasn't this supposed to be about wrestlers highlighting who they want to gain opportunities, right? That was what it's meant to be. However, we got this list full of current champions. What the hell are they gonna get? Ty Dillinger at number 10? Was he really voted that much? Was it really just a cheap pop? I don't know. And also, no Rusev? WWE have made this list look as plain and as lacking in transparency as I've ever seen. It was so opaque even, you could flash a light on it, it would not do anything. It would be absorbed into the void and it would have nothing to work on it. This entire premise had potential, but just like the Warrior Award, they completely balls it up. And it gets the second strike of the night. This entire premise has been ballsed up in 1 week. I was excited last week. I gave the segment that it was announced in a strike because of presentation. Well, the presentation of something that I was looking forward to went to hell. But were there any chance of being anywhere good? Oh god, and we follow up with another thing that we saw last week, which was Rusev and Aiden English on a phone promo. And again, I mentioned in the Raw segment of this show that they've been releasing these segments hours before the show on Twitter. I saw this promo on Twitter. You shouldn't be putting things on social media and then sticking them on the show like they're pieces of new content. Thankfully, the promo was good enough for me to not care, because honestly, it made me realise while looking at it that they're just doing this to save on production costs again. And I'm fine with that, because if they put the right people in these promos, allowing Aiden English to do his shtick right and Rusev to look like a monster, that's exactly what we needed. I'm not going to give a strike for that, but seriously, folks? Phone segments. Keep them on Twitter, keep them on Instagram, keep them on Facebook. Do not stick them on the mainstream programming, because that's not going to benefit in the long run, especially if people who can't talk are doing them, like the women did a few weeks back. Logically, anything's possible, but god damn it. This segment could have bombed, but it didn't, because Rusev and Aiden English are over as shit, and I love that. And it came through even better when it was time for the US title match between Bobby Roode and Rusev, which Roode won, but it was 16 minutes of hard-hitting and extremely tense action, because the fans wanted Rusev to win, and he went so close. My god, you could see and hear the crowd nearly pop in a collective orgasm of absolute joy. Didn't happen, but they were so impressed to say, look, he went the distance, it wasn't a burial, and if you say it's a burial, my god, you have no idea what wrestling is like nowadays. God damn it, he's gonna get his win back eventually. 50-50 booking will say otherwise. And honestly, the match was great. I enjoyed it. It was a title match on this show that would have been better on pay-per-view personally, but at the same time, you have a month to build. You've got 3 weeks to build up new opponents and different scenarios to where that 50-50 booking can eventually come back and bite Roode in the arse. The thing is, though, what I'm annoyed about, and what I really don't like, is the fact that they have the on-screen singing graphics for Aiden English. I hate that. Although seeing a screaming head of Rusev bounce across the screen made me chuckle, so it didn't impact on it mostly. I just don't like being patronised like a child and trying to think that we can't sing along to a song by a wrestler. I mute it. Other fans sing along in jest because they love the gimmick. And on top of that, you have people who just love and sit back and just watch it happen. Because they love wrestling. You don't need to convey this stuff to people, WWE. At least this week, I'm not crapping on you because you've at least scaled almost all of it back. And there we go. That's just good. You've scaled most of it back, but you had to relent a little to satiate your love for really, really bad text overlays. Good lord. However, my annoyance with their recent presentation overhaul hit fever pitch as they went in combining standard backstage promo areas with the phone promo intro as Benjamin and Gable, holy crap, delivered a promo segment that, if it didn't have all of the phone text elements, highlighting how pre-recorded the segment was, it would have been lovely. It would have been intense and sought their vigour going into the match they were going to have with the Ascension next. However, because of the presentation aspect of it, it made itself out to be completely and utterly worthless. And you know what that means? After last week and thinking I was in the clear, I wouldn't need to see any of this again. We get the third strike of the evening off of lax production. Jesus Christ, SmackDown, you have solid shows that are doing what they need to do to get by, and yet you are wasting your freaking time by doing this. Just saying, folks, it's not good. We are done. Ascension versus Gable and Benjamin was a back and forth fun match, which, annoyingly enough, I would have been happy to not give a strike to if the promo before it hadn't already dug its own grave. A Sami Zayn interview with Renee was acceptable, but again the decision from the production team to have this promo in the gorilla position was dumbfounding. You do not need to have promos in the gorilla. You're not meant to be back there. The only reason it was back there and highlighted so bluntly was because of the AJ Styles feud with Shane McMahon, where it was warranted. This makes it seem pointless. Put a reviews thing backstage. Do it in the ring. Do something. Good sitting lord. I don't understand where these choices are coming from, but it's infuriating. Ugh. We get to the Owens versus Zayn match, which was good enough as you'd expect from these two. But I would have rather have had them do a double pinfall where they both just realised, you know what, we may have had our falling out last week, but I am going to say this. We need to lie on our backs, pin each other, so it'll put those guys who were against us seemingly in a divide and conquer position where they have to make a decision based on what the outcome delivers. That would have been better. The match was fun, but I really would have liked to have seen them really push the storyline boat out further. Then again, Daniel Bryan made it a triple threat match for the Fastlane pay-per-view, and on top of that, we also have the return of Dolph Ziggler facing Baron Corbin next week, with the winner of that match being inserted too, because Corbin is pissed off with opportunities, Ziggler believes you deserve more, put them in a match, have them fight for something that matters, and logically you get something rather intriguing for next week's show. Yeah, SmackDown. I'm going to say this right now. You had a pretty solid show, but once again, ruined by production issues. This time, however, I'm going to say that you actually came out winning this week, because if you have as bad and as tepid and as boring a first hour that Raw has that nearly sunk the entire show, there is no way that the Red Brand is winning this week. Simple as that. And that is quite damning, because SmackDown, like I said, if it wasn't for small things, like the presentation of that promo, the top 10 list, and of course the Bludgeon Brothers squash match that we've seen time and time again for dullness' sake, you would have had a really good show here. You would have probably actually had one of the better SmackDowns of the year, if not the one that you had on Raw 25 was only good simply because Raw 25 sucked. I want to see SmackDown win, honestly, on its own merits rather than Raw doing badly, but then again, when am I going to see that? We go into the Elimination Chamber only, what, a week or two away? And I can say for blunt certitude that if SmackDown can keep that momentum going with delivering solid shows, while Raw can trip up on things like it did this week, they could build up some momentum and really start to turn the tide in the brand war. However, that probably won't happen because Raw is the A show. So all of you, what do you all think about this week's editions of Raw and SmackDown? Am I right to call SmackDown the better show? Am I right to slate Raw for what it managed to do in that first hour? Or am I being completely delusional and I have no idea what I'm talking about? Put your comments down there in the comment section, and if you do want to see the pay-per-view reviews and the Friday flashback that is coming next week of WrestleMania 20, along with the Wrestling Rants to come in the meantime, all you have to do is click the subscribe button down there, and I would greatly appreciate your support. I have been Freddie Thomas, you have been people watching, this has been another edition of Wrestling Rant for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time when the edition that follows up will be on the Sunday. Hope you all remember that. If not, I'll see you all then.